Hello, I'm Bruce Lorincz, and this show is called Bruce on the Loose, and we talk to a lot of people in the Wadsworth Community Schools and city government to inform people of what is happening in our community. Robert Patrick is here with us today. He's the service director of the City of Wadsworth, and thanks very much for joining us today, and I'm really excited about this show.
Thanks for having me, and you share the excitement of a lot of folks in the community. Over the last year, we've had a number of inquiries and calls and questions and just excitement about these facilities that are here in Wadsworth now.
What has been your educational background?
Yeah, well, my formal education was at the University of Akron. I received a degree in business administration finance with a minor in financial planning. I wanted to help folks with one of the most important aspects of their lives, their finances. And in my last year, I received an internship at the City of Akron, where I received my professional training and experience. And that was actually in the Director of Public Service office. And so that was over around 22 different departments. And I really learned what public service meant and providing services to folks on a daily basis, and decisions that were made impacted thousands and not just a few folks. And so I learned the way to deliver efficient and effective services, and it was something that really pulled at me and something that I wanted to determine to dedicate my career to.
And how long have you been with the City of Wadsworth?
I've been with the city over 7 years now.
Time flies when you're having so much fun, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It's amazing.
And is your position, is it appointed by the mayor or is it elected? How do you get such a position?
Yeah, it is a direct appointment of the mayor. The mayor has 3 direct appointments: the Director of Public Service, myself, Director of Public Safety, Matt Hiscock, and the Director of Human Resources, which is Terry McCullough. When my longtime predecessor had decided to retire, the city conducted a national search, and I was fortunate and I feel very blessed to have been selected by the mayor to fill this important role for the city.
Certainly, the utility, as you mentioned, it has a really strong history, and some people even would relocate to Wadsworth or have a house and then move again in Wadsworth, or businesses come in simply because of utilities.
I hope that's the case, and I've heard that, and I think the city has a very good reputation of those exceptional services with very low or competitive rates. And it's something that we strive to provide. And I've heard that there's many reasons why people move and find locations, whether it's school or it's work or it's just amenities of a community. And so I have heard that, and I hope that's true. We love providing these services. And on the business end, like you mentioned, the commercial or even more importantly industrial, some of those companies do look at what those costs are that they concur, what those services are, and we really pride ourselves. So we love sitting down with new companies or companies that are here that are maybe looking to expand in another area or maybe move some operations to another area, and we really make a good case, and we have some great examples where we feel that we are able to provide an exceptional service that really helps them to provide their services and conduct their business here in the city.
What about the history of some municipalities and cities getting into maybe solar and or wind power? What prompted them to do this?
Yeah, well, many communities like ours got into the electric distribution arena. You know, our community, our electric department is over 100 years old. So we started in 1916, and from different various reasons, and then we have grown in something like this, like you mentioned, these different projects. You know, having our own power company here, we're a public power provider. That's the term that we utilize, and part of that is that we are able to provide high reliability because our folks are right here. So if an outage does occur, we're getting on it right away. But we maintain our system to a high level. We have an automated distribution system. We determine how we spend the money on our system and keep it up to a high level, maybe not what folks with large territories can do, but we can also determine how we get our power. And so we have a power supply portfolio, we call it, and we have many different aspects to that. We have some market power, we have power generating facilities, but then we also have renewable part of our portfolio, and it's over 30% as our portfolio is renewable. And so the inclusion of items like solar and wind, landfill gas, hydroelectric power, those are different types of power generating facilities that are good for a number of different reasons. I think we're going to get into some of those coming up.
No question about it. What about the discussions? I know projects like this don't happen overnight. Could you tell us maybe a thumbnail sketch of what it took and who was involved in developing this?
Yeah, great question, and you're right. These things don't happen overnight, and they take a lot of time. This particular project is one through the American Municipal Power Incorporated, AMP as we know it. And we are one of 135 communities across really the eastern coast, so from Michigan down to Kentucky out to Delaware, in 9 states. 90 of those are in Ohio, and so we're a member of that. It's called a Joint Action Agency, and that was formed back in the 70s, actually celebrating the 50th year of public power and being stronger together. And communities like ours back then decided we should be able to go out wholesale market and buy that power instead of just purchasing it from the investor-owned utility, Ohio Edison at the time. And so through much arguments and discussions and some law changes, that was able to take place. So this group was formed, and we were one of those members that helped to form that. And one of my predecessors, Bill Lyron, that was so instrumental in so many of our services here, was a key member of doing that. Enabled us to do the things like this right here. And American Municipal Power, they created this project and opened it up to all those participants to see whoever wanted to join, and we were one of them. And then they looked for sites in those communities, and we'll talk about why that's important coming up. But there was either communities that had different sites that were available, or there were sites like this in the Seville Road location that were purchased to be able to put these in. A third-party company got involved called Next Era Energy, and they were really a leader in solar and other forms of energy. And it was important to get them involved because to lower the cost. So there was income tax credits that are available to individuals and corporations to take advantage of. Unfortunately, municipalities and nonprofits like AMP were not able to take part in those. So getting that third party to come in, they actually designed, constructed, and they maintain these facilities. They own this land. Was able to have American Municipal Power do the funding for it, and then open it up to participants like us. So we're able to participate, and we actually have an agreement that we purchase the power from these units.
So really the City of Wadsworth does not have a financial outlay in the site here on Rittman Road and also on Seville Road.
Correct. These sites, like our diesel generating sites, are millions of dollars, and so we don't have to have that outlay. We just actually take the benefits and purchase the power at a reduced rate.
Robert, as soon as we're talking here, Mr. Sun comes out, and I see we're both smiling about that.
Yeah.
Why don't you give us, again, an idea of how the panels work and how it goes ahead and secures the sun for electrical use.
Sure. So there's about 8,000 panels here at Rittman Road. This is a 10-acre site. It's producing about 2.6 megawatts of power. The Seville Road site is about 6.25 megawatts. It has about 21,000 panels on 31 acres. So this site's about 40% of that. And how this works is these panels absorb Mr. Sun and the heat that's generated there, and it takes that power or that heat and it transfers it into energy and moves it through cables on a DC power, takes it to a transformer and some inverters, and then it transfers that power into AC power. It takes it out to these lines and it moves it to our substation that then distributes the power out to all of our residents. So over 5,000 homes can be powered by these units when they're in full operation. In full operation, I say, because obviously these units are only producing power when the sun is out. Even on cloudy days, there's a certain amount of power that's generated. But obviously, they don't generate in the evenings, during the night, and in the morning. So they have a capacity factor or a production factor of around 20%, unlike a facility that can be burning in coal, or it can be by natural gas, can have generators that are producing power all the time.
What about the maintenance? It seems like the units are self-contained. Is there a great deal of maintenance required?
No, these units are very much self-contained. Most of the maintenance is what happened some this week was the mowing of the fields, keeping the grass down so it doesn't impact the production, doesn't hurt any of the rays, but also has more of an aesthetic appeal. The only real maintenance that we have experienced, or that NextEra has experienced on the two sites in Wadsworth, are over at the Seville Road site, and it's on the tracking system. So these are fixed units, so you can see how they're positioned. They're positioned to get the best angle of the sun throughout the time when the sun is going up and going over. The units at Seville Road are on what's called a tracking system. So they actually work to have the greatest angle towards the sun as the sun moves. So as the sun comes up, they're positioned over here, and then as the sun moves, those panels actually move with the sun and track it to get the full amount of energy. That was done over there because of the size of that field. It made sense to do that, but with the smaller fields like this, it doesn't make sense to put in that investment.
So with technology, the panels adjust to what the sun is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting. And so you talk about maintenance. There has been some issues with those tracking because they're mechanical, and some issues over the last year. But other than that, they are self-contained units. They have about a 25-year lifespan, and obviously we'll see how that goes coming up.
So in real terms, then, how does the city, like, how many homes and how many businesses could we go ahead and take care of in a maybe a given week?
Yeah, probably over 5,000 to 6,000 homes can be powered by the amount of power that's generated here. So there's about 9 megawatts total of power. And to give you a perspective, on an average day, at nighttime, we're producing or we're consuming about 15 to 20 megawatts. During the average daytime, that level of consumption goes up to around 40 to 45. When we're in the summertime, in our what's called peak demand season, which is from June 1st typically to the end of September, that consumption can go up into the 50s, and our peak days can be in the 60s. So we could be consuming around 60-some megawatts. So these units can, the number of almost 10, when you look, it could be almost a quarter, but based on how much it produces during the time frame, it produces around 5 to 7% of our overall power for the year, which is quite a bit of load here. And those units, these units are important for a couple of different reasons. Number one, obviously they're producing power every day when the sun is out. Even in the clouds, they do produce some power. So our agreement states that we pay, after some discounts and credits, in the $30 range, which is a little more than half of what our average cost is per megawatt. So when the summer days, like we're experiencing now, when the heat is up, we have a portion of our portfolio that is going out to the market, when our peak averages a certain amount over our normal, and so those rates can really raise. They can be over $200 a megawatt hour during those peak times. So it's obviously a lot cost effective and less cost. But the real benefit is, just like our diesel generators, these are called behind the meter peaking units. So having them here in the city of Wadsworth, producing power, going to our lines and going to our substation, distributing this power here in the city, prevents us from having to go out to the grid for that power. So there are two costs that have really escalated in the last 7 to 10 years that we pay to get power here. One is a transmission cost. So to get power from our facilities, like our natural gas facility or our hydro facilities that are elsewhere in Ohio or in other areas, to get those to Wadsworth, there's a charge to have that energy carry over those high lines.
And we have no say-so in that. That's kind of something that we have to swallow irregardless.
Absolutely. And those charges have went hundreds of percents over the last number of years. So the other charge is called a capacity charge. And that is something that came into place back in the 2000s after there were some problems with the grid, to make sure that all of those large power facilities were generating enough power to keep the grid stable. And so there's a charge for that we pay. So those two charges combined equal about a third of our overall power cost. So we're talking over $13 million, when it used to be around 3 to 4 many years ago. So
huge jump.
Huge jump. And so it's kind of almost a backward system when you have to spend millions of dollars to try to control those millions of dollars of costs. But when these units generate, we have our demand peak shaving days, and usually it's around 10 to 15 per summer. And when the the consumption over not just our area, but over a whole territory from here to New Jersey are at a high amount, usually when temperatures are in the upper 80s, 90 degree range. We call on, and with the help of American Municipal Power, they help us to forecast those. We call on our community to try to reduce your load, your consumption. Usually it's in the afternoon from 1 or 2 o'clock to 6 p.m. And so we ask people, maybe turn your lights off, maybe not do your laundry, maybe not run your oven at that point, shut your blinds, but also if you have any generation. We have generators in city facilities that we turn on as well, and then we have these units and the diesel units, among some other things in our portfolio. But when these units are allowed to generate during those time frames, we're basically using that reducing that load that we're going out to other places for that power. And that's so important because it's kind of hard to understand, but our fees for those two items next year are based on our highest peak days of this year. So anything we can do to reduce that load on those highest peak days is going to save all of us money, because those charges unfortunately have to be passed on to all the ratepayers. So everything that we can do here, that residents can do, that businesses can do to reduce those the amount of usage on those days is ultimately going to benefit everyone next year.
What about the situation with council and the mayor? Have they been very supportive, and have they certainly helping the program out and spreading the word?
Absolutely. The mayor has been very supportive of this project and other projects, and city council as well. You know, that is something that we take seriously, where we're very transparent in everything we do in our electric utility. We have legislation, we present cases to city council, they have meetings that are open to the public. Folks can come and they can attend and they can take part of it. Usually we take time so folks can voice their opinion, and then we go through those periods of time, discussion, and make those decisions and move forward. So city council has been very supportive of these projects. City council was so supportive of these projects that we actually received approval to purchase this land when it was on the market, and then sell it to that other individual. And that was really due so we could really cut down on the time frame it took to construct these facilities. This facility began construction in March of 2020, and it was put into commercial operation in June, so it took around 4 months to complete. The facility over in Seville Road started construction in August or September of 2019, and it was completed in February of 2020. So that location came in commercial operation in February. Both of those facilities then were ready for last year's demand response season in the summertime.
Is there any possibility of maybe getting some more land and possibly expanding the solar fields?
That's always a possibility. You know, we didn't have land from the city to be able to put these facilities in. We actually looked at a number of pieces of property that we own, and none of them really were worked out. So there could be lands available, not for this project. This project has really completed. There was around 60 megawatts overall that participants in the AMP communities had wanted, and then the funding has been secured and has been moved forward. So this project is really done, but there's other projects that we could utilize. We could go out on our own for a project, or I know AMP is looking at another solar project coming up that we may become a participant in, and we could do something even on a smaller scale. We could do some rooftop, or we could have some smaller arrays. We have some ideas of something that would be neat. I think the community would get some enjoyment out of.
Yeah, my brother-in-law lives in Colorado, and he has a solar roof, and many of his neighbors do as well, but a little bit different situation, but maybe some businesses might look at some way to conserve the environment, and that's certainly very positive. We've talked about the temperature ranges, and Germany had a flood today, I understand, and anything we can do to help the environment is positive, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's another nice component of these units. They are sustainable, just like the hydro and the wind that we have, and even the landfill gas. So that is definitely a component that is very important now, and it's becoming more and more important every year, where folks want to have more emphasis on keeping the environment safe. And so we could have additional projects in the future, and this could become a more important part of our portfolio, because solar over the last number of years has become very popular. It's actually the #1 new generation source in the country. A lot of that is due to the renewable aspect, but a lot of that is due to the cost too. The costs have come down as supplies go up. Remember back in our economic class days, usually those costs come down. So as those costs come down, they're becoming more affordable, and you're seeing more and more of these solar arrays and solar fields being built and putting into use.
I can attest to other states are getting involved. Idaho, I had a 3-week Western swing in Montana, and also Minnesota, a lot of wind power. So other states are waking up. How about other communities close to Wadsworth? Are any other municipalities doing anything similar to Wadsworth?
Yeah, there are a number of municipalities. The closest one, in a site that we visited prior to entering into these agreements, was down in Orville. They are a public power community just to our south, and we have a great relationship with them. And they installed some facilities in their community, and so we went down and took a look. And there's other communities around the area that are public power communities. I don't know of any that are close to us that have some of these solar facilities, though.
So what about, again, we talked about future activities and inroads. How do you get the ideas from, again, the organization that we're involved in, and do you get notices that, hey, this is starting, or how does that generate?
Yeah, great question, and we do get them from American Municipal Power. We are a key member. I think we've always been a member. We have a board seat, so I'm on the board and attend meetings on a regular basis and on a number of different committees. And so we hear about these projects. But AMP also sends out notices to all those municipalities that are part of the organization. And so a project comes up, there is interest from folks, and they go through a process to make sure that everyone understands and notifies, and then they'll come in and sit down and talk to us and see what the benefit is to us, see how our portfolio is put together and what our needs are moving forward, and how these programs and projects can benefit us. So they do a fantastic job. They're really there for us, and we don't have the number of folks that can dedicate their time to projects and are experts in these fields. So having a group like that behind us that can help us out on many different aspects of the electrical industry, because it is an industry. It's a large industry. There's large players in the investor-owned utility side that do this for a living. We provide these services to the community on a high level, but it takes a certain level of expertise for that. And we do a fantastic job of operating and maintaining all of our system and units, but there's other aspects of these new emerging technologies and new projects and legislative items, our power supply needs, that they are really key in helping us out with.
I just noticed the other day on NPR that there was a story about the state legislature, I think, contemplating a bill that would let the county commissioners decide whether local municipalities could go ahead with such projects. Does that concern you a little bit?
Any type of oversight outside of us is concerning. And when the legislature gets involved sometimes, it's something that we say is not advantageous to us. There's a thing called home rule that's very important that says a municipality should be able to make decisions based on the best of our community and our needs. And that continually gets challenged in different ways. There was recently some legislation that was proposed in the state budget to eliminate municipalities and organizations from providing broadband service to residents and businesses.
Sure.
And as you know, with our CityLink that has been around for over 20 years, provides such a key and wonderful service to so many in our community, it's disheartening that maybe someone would want to take away that ability to do that. In every situation, every municipality is different, but anyone that says, hey, we want to try to limit something that you do, especially either something we do now or something that we could potentially do in the future to provide a service and a benefit or a need in the community, is troubling. So, we have a lot of approval processes that we go through. We have discussions and meetings, and we have a process that we go through, and we think that is appropriate enough. We don't think that there should be additional approval steps that we should go through that could dictate or could change anything that we're doing here.
So other governmental entities certainly are apprised of what Wadsworth is thinking about, and again, it's a long process. You again didn't do this solar fields in a month or so. It took a long time, and people were certainly aware of what was going on.
Absolutely, we had many presentations, we had many discussions in public meetings. Sometime we will send out information over social media and on our website and those types of things. Which, speaking of which, we have a nice item on our website. If people go to that under public projects, they can click on our solar projects here, solar power plants, and they can take a look at what the amount of energy that's being produced in real time. So at 12 o'clock today, you can get on and click on it, and you can take a look on how much energy is being produced. You can also take a look at the power that's generated over the last day, 5 days, week, month, last year, and so on. And so it gives that nice graphical information. It gives that data. So, you know, we always hear comments from folks that have went by and are more interested in it, but people can actually get on and see how they're doing right now. It will also compare how that usage compares to other types of usages, and it gives a nice comparison, folks. They can see how we're helping the environment as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I think we talked a little bit before the show that you had a picture of a drone going over and showing the entire, was it at Seville Road and this facility both, or just Seville Road?
Yeah, both facilities. We have a drone that the city uses for electric work, and they're very useful tools for many different reasons. And so during the construction and after the construction, we were able to take some video to see the progress, to be able to put out there for folks, and then ultimately the end product. So we'll share those with you so you can play it during this broadcast.
Sure. That's wonderful. What about, this is part of your responsibility, but not the entire situation. What are some of the other major tasks that you're responsible for?
Well, I'm over most of the operations of the city, so we have around 16 different departments, anything from WCTV in our studio, the senior center, to the street department, the parks department, electric and communications, engineering department, the airport behind us. And so there's a lot of those operations that we provide that I'm ultimately the pointing authority over those. We have an amazing amount of staff, of supervisors and managers and employees all the way down through the ranks that do a phenomenal job. And so it's my pleasure really to work with them and help to guide the different things that we're doing. I also have some other hats that I wear. I'm the budget manager for the city, so I coordinate the annual budget and the PIO and some other things. But you know, those services and those things that we offer here, especially in a community of our size, about 24,000, is unique. We're one of, like I said, 90 communities in Ohio that have the electric department, but we're one of only 2 that have a full service communication department. So I always tell people that all of our services, we're only a community in Ohio that provides the services we do. A lot provide less or more. Sure. But there's so many benefits to that. And so having those services here, we're not relying on others. We're not relying on another entity. They don't dictate our rates. They don't dictate the improvements that go on. We do all of that. We staff those. We determine the adequate staffing. We run those services efficiently and effectively. And then we provide different services that you can't get in other places, like having a power supply portfolio with providing some demand response peaking services. We have a thermostat program that's part of that demand response program that someone can sign up and get a reduction during June to September of $10 a month off the utility bill, and then allows us the ability to get in and cycle that air conditioner a couple degrees during the day to help to reduce that load. So it's programs like that we're able to offer because we are the utility. We're not relying on someone else. So we provide most all the utilities from electric, water, sewer, cable, and internet, and phone, and trash services. The only main utility we don't provide is gas service. And so folks like to get that one bill too and know who to contact with any issues or questions.
No question that you're not getting inundated with 4 or 5 different bills. That has really been a positive situation in my household, and it lists all the charges and all those services, and it's really very positive. Robert, I want to thank you for joining us. Robert Patrick, the Service Director, City of Wadsworth, and this is Bruce on the Loose, and this was a very wonderful show. Hope you can watch it, and next week we'll have another wonderful show as well.
are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.